Welcome to Joe's Tutorial Part 9, tailored for the Live from Studio B project at Holyoke Community College. Okay, we've just finished doing our graphics, and we've finished figuring out how we want to edit in terms of cutting and stacking our clips and cross-dissolving and any ways that we want our style of edits to move through the edit. What I want to move to now is talk a little bit about some problems that often arise, so a little bit of troubleshooting, and also about designing the middle. So typically there are two songs played in a Live from Studio B set. And so in between those two songs, there's conversation, there's jargon, sometimes there's a lot of extra stuff that needs to be cut out. So the middle is another sort of design problem to solve and way to figure out how you want that to flow between tracks. Okay, so I have two new projects up here that I want to look at. One is Noiseman and the Squids. Really easy middle design. Okay, so we didn't have any issues with the audio. As you can see, my master audio track down here continues all the way through. There's no disruption, and Davis and the band were pretty quick and focused on how they wanted to talk in between songs. There's really not much to do. All I've done is done some sort of continuity cuts to make it a little more dynamic and interesting through, and then we're able to just continue right on to the second track. There's not too much wasted time or anything like that. So I'll just play that so we can see.
Hi, we're Noiseman and the Squids. This is our reunion show. This is Carter, my friend Carter. This is my friend Eric. That was Fruits.
Okay, no special tricks there. It's a pretty simple problem to solve for that shoot. Okay, so I want to move to one Danny's show that was much more difficult to deal with. So there were some issues with the recording and things that needed to be cut out and things like that. So I wanted to show an example of a more problematic middle design and some of the ways you can handle that and solve the problem. Okay, so as you can see in this track, my green master audio file, which we've been using, is cut in between. So what happened there, we mistakenly dropped the recording. So we had two separate recordings to deal with. I had already synced these up separately, so there are two separate syncing problems to solve between the two tracks. Once that's all done, the only problem is I've got all this nice stuff in the middle with Danny talking that I'm losing because I don't have that audio information. I only have the visual information. So you can solve this many different ways. I mean, you can decide in your edit that you don't need any of that stuff in between and you just want to fade between the two tracks and move right on. That's a totally viable way to handle a problem like that. But if you've got information that you want to have included, sometimes we have to put a Band-Aid on it and find ways around the problem. So an example here. So our master audio track, we lose right at the end of this song. So I'll play that. Okay, so first of all, the way I've solved that is to take audio from a camera, one of the camera shots, which I'll talk about in a moment, and crossfade that up so that the applause from the audience, as well as the beginning of Danny's talking, is smoothly delivered, kind of fades right up into the mix with the missing audio, in place of the missing audio. And so that works nicely. I wanted to point out too that we have, in addition to that problem, there was a lot of extra stuff in between these two tracks. There were some technical difficulties. There was some, conversation, stuff like that that's just irrelevant to the performance. So often that will happen, and often you have some cutting to do in the middle of the two tracks to make things a little bit more smooth and a little more focused. So in this case, I'll play this edit here. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dan Layson. Okay, so that cut between those two shots is a false continuity cut. It's movie magic. Those two moments did not happen simultaneously, as is the case in most of our shooting because it's all synced up. This one was manufactured, so it's a matter of finding, as an editor, just the right clip and motion on screen to match continuity and make it feel as though there is a continuous moment occurring when there's not. You can totally choose not to fake it like that. You don't have to do those kinds of tricks. You could just simply cut to black, which I've done in the past as well, sort of acknowledging that there has been something snipped, some time passage that is missing in the edit, or simply crossfading between two moments and types of shots sometimes indicates time passage as well, that there is something that has been removed there. So my choice here was to simply make it nice and smooth as a kind of continuity shot, so that we can get right into what Danny had to say. So you'll see that that's on a different track as well down here in the audio, partially because there was a lot, as I said, a lot of extra stuff that needed to be snipped. So as that happens, rather than having two audio tracks butt right up against each other, there's always going to be a little awkward glitch sound or some kind of some way of indicating that time has passed differently. So I simply dropped that audio clip into another track and crossfaded between the two. So as we can see, from the applause to Danny's voice, it's pretty smooth.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dan Layson.
Okay, so another trick, another kind of movie magic to make that feel nice and fluid and to kind of get to the point. On the other end here, as Danny transitions to the next song, we have another kind of edit, which I'll show.
I hope everybody gonna enjoy. So let's go, guys.
Okay, so this is an example of what I just referred to, where there's a kind of acknowledgement of time passage. I've crossfaded the end of Danny's talk with the beginning of the next track. So the viewer understands between those two images that time has passed, something has been snipped out, and I think it works nice and smoothly. Additionally, the audio between the camera audio and the master audio crossfades as well, so there's a nice fluid connection between those two sound elements.
And I hope everybody gonna enjoy. So let's go, guys.
So one trick that's helpful there is to have, as Danny says, his last words, to have the track, the second track beginning kind of overlapping that. Okay, so there's a way of that feeling nice and smooth and fluid. Even if the viewer knows that this isn't entirely in real time, we're on to the next thing. I also added a blur effect, so that's not camera blur, but rather a Premiere effect blur that I've placed on this clip as well as it's entering into the next song. That blur resolves as Danny begins to sing. Okay, so, and that's just another stylistic choice, first of all. It's just something that is, part of the look of the edit, at which you could go along with your style, whatever you're choosing to do. And it's also, it doubles as a nice little Band-Aid as well. So as I cross between these two shots, without the blur on the second shot that's coming in, might be a little bit awkward in terms of how the camera movement and those lines connect. Knowing that it's not a continuity cut anyway, just to soften that on the eyes of the viewer, a little bit of a blur to enter into this next shot felt appropriate. Okay. So lastly, when we have to deal with things like this, we have to get this audio back. We've already unlinked it and deleted it so that we could work with our master audio previously, but now we have to get it back into the mix. And it needs to be synced as well so that we are seeing Danny's lips moving and hearing that sound perfectly synced up together. Okay, first of all, you've got 3 audio tracks to choose from. So you've got camera 1, 2, and 3. They all contain audio, even though we're not using it. So one thing you might want to do is just sample them each a little bit and see which sounds the cleanest, the clearest, which is the best camera audio to use for this. You only need one. Once you've done that, there might still be some problems to solve. So if you notice, I'm highlighted on this audio track here. And so I've got my effect controls information. If you notice, I put on a couple effects. So the graphic equalizer has been added to this just to balance that sound a little bit. And a denoise feature as well, because this camera was picking up audio that we hadn't cared for in any way. We haven't sort of cleaned up in any way. So the sound quality is not great. We were just using that camera for the visual. So it takes a little bit of cleaning up just to make that feel legible. And there's lots of effects and lots of ways to customize your audio in that way. Best case scenario is that you rarely have to do that because the master audio track has been balanced really well by our team in production. But in some cases, you'll have to just to kind of clean it up and make it feel connected to the previous sound. So not a hugely different audio feeling that's happening. Okay, and also we need to what's called match that sound back. So there's a trick to this. We don't have to completely resync things and find things, in the dark, resync the sound to get it back. Premiere has what's called a match frame feature, which is really helpful to use. So what I'm going to do, the way this works, it's a little bit awkward. First of all, you have to select, okay? So not double click, but just kind of select the clip that you want to match audio back to. So as an example, I'm going to use camera 1-1 here. Let's say I want that audio back. How can I get it? The other thing you have to make sure you do is place your playhead somewhere within that clip. Okay, so if it's the playhead is over here and I try to match this clip, it's going to match whatever's on screen. So essentially it's taking this frame that I have here, freeze frame, and matching the audio directly to that, right? So I know if I match that frame, all the audio will be in sync because the sound will be in sync with that frame. Okay, so I've selected camera 1-1. My playhead is hovering over it. And what I'm going to do is come over to up at my top menu in Premiere, I'm going to select Sequence and scroll down to Match Frame. And if you use this a lot or get comfortable with it, you can see that there's a keystroke for that too, a shortcut. But right now I'm going to click Match Frame. Okay, what that's done is detect the clip that I had highlighted, which is camera 1-1. And it brings it up in my source media. So this is source media from my media bin. Okay, so if you notice, there's no changes to it, color balancing, any kind of adjustments, none of that is connected to this clip because it's drawing from its original source. Okay, so the advantage to that is that the audio, of course, is there and completely synced up with it. We do not need the visual for this. We only need the audio. So what we can do is simply grab this little waveform. It's an audio waveform here. So we're telling the program we want to click and drag just the audio from that source media and drop it down here. Okay, so I'll put it here in audio track 2 kind of randomly. And now we see that it's, we still would wonder if we have a sync problem, but the nice thing is that because we've matched audio directly to this cut, we can take this audio and bring it right up to the beginning of that clip. So it's snapped right to. So we know that the first frame of the clip starts with the first element of sound as well. So we know that that now is synced up and ready to use with the visual track. Okay, so a little bit of organizing to do, a little bit of sort of tricks and band-aids to put on and ways to get that audio back in the mix, balance it, tie it in as best as you can with the other audio. But that's a really good example of a method to troubleshoot how you might take care of a problem that arises to make the edit feel nice and smooth. No shoot is perfect, no production is perfect, so there are always going to be little problems that as an editor you have to make choices about. So those are a couple examples of how you might solve those, as well as design the middle of these shoots, which can be a really nice opportunity to have the sort of character of the performer come through. Maybe there's a joke, maybe there's a comment, something that gives a little bit of sort of personal feeling, which is a real brand of these shows as well. The Live from Studio B shows are very DIY feeling, and to have the edit support that is a nice way to anchor these videos and make them very enticing. Okay, And so we will move on from here.